Ain't no party like a Pitbull Party.
Welcome to episode 115 of Chet and John's reassuringly finite gaming playlist. My name's John Denton. With me, as always, Chet Roivas.
Hello.
2 top 10 lists, 10 being the game one of us has played the least this week, 1 being the game one of us has played the most this week. That probably makes more sense than what I normally say. Let's do this shit. Number 10, Chet.
I think that makes less sense, but...
I think it does as well.
Okay. My number 10 is Everybody's Golf on the PlayStation Vita. I'm still playing it rather a lot. I'm not going to say too much about it. I'm terrible at it. I'm not gripping it as quickly as I gripped the new Mario Golf. But yeah, I'm just going to repeat more or less what I said last week. It is really absurd and annoying that it's so difficult to unlock content for multiplayer, because I know, a couple of my friends don't play video games, but they love golf, but when there's a golf video game, they're really, really open to it and really, really keen to get involved. I could just imagine them buying this and having a few games like, let's play some more courses. Well, first you've got to go and spend several hours in single player. It's stupid. It's something that I suppose if you play games, you just accept. But the first time I remember realising how ludicrous it was when Dara O'Brien was on that Charlie Brooker programme, and he talked about how he bought Rock Band because he wanted to play all the songs on the back, and the game made him play for hours just fucking crap to build up so he could unlock that stuff. I mean, the subsequent Rock Bands didn't do that. But it's just so weird that some games... I mean, everybody loses. The creators, most of the game they made will never get seen, and the punters who buy it end up giving up before they get their money's worth out of it. So it's stupid. I mean, I'm only playing Everybody's Golf with other people, and luckily some of them have got courses themselves that they've unlocked. But yeah, it's stupid, dumb, but a very good game anyway.
Yeah, that is stupid. Nonsensical, in fact.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Okay, my number 10 is a game called League of Evil, which was a listener recommendation, freebie on Android. This is a 2D platformer, pixel art. Straight away, it rubbed me the wrong way because it has an on-screen joystick, not joystick, but like on-screen buttons, left and right, and jump and stuff like that. So straight away, and I only played a few levels of it, to be fair. It's a game about bouncing over pits, bouncing up like walls. It's basically kind of a Super Meat Boy ripoff, and at the end you have to kill a scientist for some reason, for some sort of story reason, I don't know. It was already by a few levels in becoming quite hard to control on the screen, and I knew that it wasn't going to get any better soon in that respect. It does the thing where if you die, then you start again. It plays the replay Super Time Force style, but you can't interact with the replay. It's just there, so you sort of have a bunch of replays going along side you again, like what happens at Super Meat Boy at the end of a level, but as you're playing. But yeah, it just kind of is what it is. But I just don't really have the energy to play mobile games that have that type of control scheme anymore. The novelty of mobile games is worn off so much that it has to be an absolute stormer for me to bother, I think. Yeah. And yeah, just straight away. I might give it a bit more time because I haven't given it enough levels really, but it wasn't exactly blowing my socks off.
Is it a port or is it actually just an Android game?
I don't know if it's on iOS, to be honest.
No, but is it a console port or something? I mean, I've never heard of it.
No, I'm sure it's not. I'm sure it's just a mobile game. Yeah.
All right. Okay, well, it doesn't sound like it's worth looking into anyway.
It was only 54 pence, though, the final version, which is nice. A nice price.
What does that do? Take the ads out?
No, I think you get the first bunch of levels for free, and then the rest of it, one of those.
Yeah, 54p, that's fine. Pleasant. Okay, my number 9 is a game called Kanye Zone on...
Yeah.
I played it on the Mac. It's available on a PC also because it's a Flash game. Just put Kanye... I think it's kanyezone.com, but just put Kanye Zone into Google. Based on what you said it was last week and what I was expecting from it, it's already one of the least disappointing games of the year. As you said, you just spin a bump around the outside of Kanye West's circular zone to prevent him from bouncing into it. The real fun and the real sort of pleasure as a game is when you get some form of mastery over pressing the space button, because as you said, it flips it 180 degrees to the other side of the circle, and yeah, it's horrendously addictive. What was your high score? I think I got 2.3 million. I think I got last time.
I think I only got about 1.5.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it's I was stuck on it for. It should be higher on my list, but there you go. But yeah, I mean, just go and play it.
I explained it ever so slightly wrong as well last week, which was embarrassing. But yeah, when Jay-Z appears, when he does get in the zone, is the comic timing on that is basically flawless every single time.
And I do like the fact that they've got those Terry Gilliam flappy mouths as well.
Yeah,
it's just yeah. I mean, Kanye Zone. Go if you have a computer, just go play that.
It makes me smile thinking of the conversation that eventually led to this game being created. Okay, my number 9 is the ctOS app on Android. This is I'm going to keep this separate from a game that I'll talk about later, a bit of a spoiler, but this is the Watch Dogs companion app for iPhone and Android, and it's quite comprehensive. But unfortunately, it doesn't. The Ubisoft servers are taking such a kicking at the moment that it's very difficult to get a game on it. But the idea is that you play live with someone on their console, and you have like an overhead view of the map, kind of like a sort of grid view, that wireframey almost, and you control a chopper using very simple sort of drag and drop controls, and you can spawn in stuff to fuck with them basically. So you can spawn in cop cars, and you do some of the hacking stuff that I'll talk about later when I talk about the main game. And it seems like a really, really, really cool app, but at the moment the servers are dying. They're really struggling. It's done very, very well, this game, apparently. So yeah, it's probably going to be one that I'll try again in a few days when the game is a bit more the servers are a bit steadier. So but it does seem like a genuinely cool companion app, and a cool way of messing with people. Like, the whole promise of the second screen thing was that you could be on the bus and someone, your mate's playing at home and you can do this. But genuinely, I actually do think that I could be on the bus and start trying to ruin your day, because you can go in on to PC or PS4 or Xbox One. You can get players from any of the consoles and mess with them, or pick up a quick game against the random. So yeah, it's cool. But yeah, it doesn't work yet. So fingers crossed. It's still very early days. So fingers crossed they'll sort that out. Yeah,
that's really good to know, because I remember at preview events people were talking about the tablet implementation. I was like, wow, that sounds really cool. So are you telling me that you've got the PS4 version, I've got the Xbox One version? If I go on to if I sign into my PSN account, can I play this app and jump into your game, or do I have to have registered that I own the game on a different format? Any idea?
You sign in with Uplay.
Oh, okay, right.
And then, I think you can find. I think you have to find my Uplay username for PlayStation.
Okay.
Or maybe just my PSN name. I wasn't too sure. I was just trying to do quick games. But yeah, you definitely can jump into my game.
That's great.
And I can jump into yours. Yeah.
That's just like that's wicked. That's like basically it's not cross-platform, but if that actually works like that, that's terrific.
Yeah, well, we shall see. I may in 2 weeks' time saying, this app never worked.
Yeah.
So, in which case it'll be a piece of shit. But it does seem like it's going to be very cool. So definitely, obviously, it's a freebie. So if you've got Watch Dogs, which I'm sure many of you do, definitely give it a download.
Cool. Okay, I'll do that later. Okay, my number 8, I'm sure, is on your list as well. It's a game called Pitbull Party.
Beautifully, it is also my number 8.
Okay, it's available at pitbullparty.com or just Google Pitbull Party. It's made by the same people who made Kanye Zone, and it's another extremely amusing and hard-to-fault thing, which is sort of based around this 10-second sample of a song by someone called Pitbull. I'd never heard of this. Had you ever heard of someone called Pitbull?
Yeah, I've actually. This is Pitbull's second appearance on the podcast. A long time ago, I talked about a Pitbull song that was goes "Meet me in the hotel and meet me." Yeah, he's just a fucking holocaust of a musician. But you go on to explain the Pitbull Party.
Well, I mean, the game's shaped around the first 10 seconds of a song by Pitbull. It's only the opening 10 seconds on a loop, and I thought that was the whole song. I had to go onto YouTube and discover that it's not the whole song. But every time the game starts again and that loop starts again, I just smiled, because it's the fucking worst. That song, I mean, the whole song's awful, but the opening 10 seconds, oh my God. But it made me laugh more than annoy me. Basically, you use 3 keys to move between 3 grooves on a record, and by pressing spacebar you bounce across to the other turntable. There's 2 turntables, and the obstacles appear faster and faster the longer that you play, and your performance, or the severity of how badly you fuck up, is denoted by the song that you supposedly play afterwards in this weird universe where you're a DJ. And again, that's a funny idea because I had a terrible round and then I got given, it said the next song you played was Hurt by Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
And I was just like, can you imagine being at a party and putting that on? It's a career ender, that one. So, I mean, that every time something came up like that, I thought that was funny. And they play a little sample of the song as well. It's very amusing, like Kanye Zone. And again, it's mechanically, it's hard to fault. I mean, I don't know what people want out of a browser game, but this will do me just fine. It's bookmarked. I think it's hilarious.
Yeah, everything about it. The animation of Pitbull is hilarious. The people dancing in the background is hilarious. Lil Jon / Lil Wayne appearing to freak you out is hilarious if that happened to you. And then every single time it cut to another song when you fuck up, and it was a different song every single time that I did it.
It was,
every single time. It was like I think it was like Father and Son by Cat Stevens was one of them. Just those guys are hilarious.
Yeah.
So Kanye Zone and Pitbull Party, you can't go wrong. You cannot go wrong.
You can't go wrong. No. What's the sample when you jump from turntable to turntable?
Oh, what does he say?
Yeah, it's. I mean, that was really making me laugh every time I skip. It was. Oh, I can't remember, but that's just amusing. But yeah, everybody, there's nobody listening to this that can't play Pitbull Party, so go and do that. So I'm gonna have a little go in a minute. It's good. It's very good.
That was my ace as well. So you're 7.
Okay, my number 7 is a game called The Money Game, which is a brand new game on Xbox Live Indie Games on the 360. There are still people ploughing away on XSplit, amazingly. I'll be brief. The game screen is a poorly rendered city with a giant dollar bill in the middle of it, and a message comes up saying, "Hey, you're a paper boy. Go make some money by hammering the A button." So you hammer the A button, and dollar bills rain from the sky, and the dollar counter goes up and up and up. And by the time I'd gone to $600, which was 600 button presses, I was still hammering away. And then at nearly $1,000 or 1,000 taps, it said, "Hey, you can buy your way into another job." So I bought the position of cart pusher at a supermarket, and then the dollars rained down at a slightly faster rate, and I was just pressing one button. You can also invest your money or put it into savings, although I don't think there's any risk involved. I'm sure paying $1 of your money to put it into a cardboard box versus paying it into a trust fund just nets you more dollars. I don't think it's part of the gameplay or anything. It's just an extra thing to do. All you're ever doing is making more and more money rain down on your screen. Why am I still talking about it? The money game. You press a button to spend 69p in order to press a button an infinite amount of times to earn absolutely jack shit. I like to think that there's some kind of subversive ending where if you go for long enough, a load of poor people kill you or something. I don't know. But the money game, if it sounds appealing, I wouldn't turn my nose up at seeking professional help.
Okay.
It's just money falling from the screen. That's what you do. Hammer a button. Here, do you want money to fall faster? I mean, it's mental. It's not a game. I don't know what it is.
Okay. All right. My number 7 is Dead Rising 3 on Xbox One.
Fair play.
Tragically, now Dead Rising 3 has an audio bug, which means I can't hear any of the cutscenes. The in-game audio is all muffled, except for the odd sound effect, which is excruciatingly loud, and basically has rendered the entire game unplayable. I've tried to reload it. I've tried to change all the audio settings on both the Xbox One and in the game. I've tried everything, and it's basically, I think the only thing that I could do is go back to the very, very beginning of the game, and that's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen, and I'm just annoyed, and I'm just blaming the Xbox One because I know it's the Xbox One's fault. Normally I blame the game, but I reckon it's the Xbox One's fault. So, I mean, in terms of amount of time playing Dead Rising 3, it was probably a good 45 minutes plus because I was just trying to get this fucking thing working. And it was a shame because I was enjoying it, but yeah, there we go. Screwed.
That's really fucking irritating.
I know.
Did you Google it to see if this is...
Yeah, it's a known problem, and weirdly a known problem in Dead Rising 2 as well.
Really?
Yeah, so maybe it is the game, but I'm still blaming the Xbox One.
I'm sure in some small way the Xbox One is to blame. Always. It's never blameless.
No, it's never blameless.
It's established itself. It's always guilty in some way. That's really sucks because I really do think that's a genuinely terrific game.
I was enjoying, like I said before, I was enjoying what I'd played and was happy to go back into it. Whether I would have ever got to the end, I don't know, but I definitely wanted to give it some more time. And yeah, just there was no fixing it.
Terrible shame that. Damn. So you're just going to get just shot?
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not going back to the beginning. It's a good few hours in now. So.
Feck.
Yeah.
Well, that sucks.
It does.
Really is that's a shame. Okay, well, my number 6 is a game called Venus Explorer on the Xbox 360. It's another indie game, Xbox Live indie game, and it's another new one. I downloaded it because it has the standard XSplit cover art of a young anime lady, or let's be honest, a young anime girl in pigtails who's covering her breast with her hands. It's just that's just the amount of covers, sort of box art on XSplit. That is exactly that. I dread to think. Anyway, I clicked on it and I looked at, because whenever you go onto an XSplit game in the marketplace, you can look at other screenshots. I went on there and I started looking at the other screenshots because there were several, and there was a really nicely rendered sort of 8-bit style animation of a Commodore Amiga with an Iron Maiden poster in the background, and then there was another screenshot of aliens in a space station that looked like the aliens from The Simpsons. I was like, what is this? This is like, it looks good and it's quite unusual, so I downloaded it anyway. And of course, in addition to those, there was the standard screenshot of the girl lying in the bed with her giant breast and other bits expertly covered by a bit of duvet. And it had like a speech bubble of her saying something ditzy or dim. I guess that's part of this whole fantasy. I'm such an idiot. Maybe in 5 minutes my tits will fall out. You know, that shit. And then you start the game up, and it's one of the menu options is other hot games, and you look, and this guy has created games that all have the same cover, etc., etc. So he's responsible for a lot of them. Once I started the game, I realised it's nothing like that at all. It's a really amiable, choose-your-own-adventure style text game with a couple of small interludes where you control an astronaut flying through space and stuff. I mean, it's very linear. It's often like, do you want to go to the door? Yes, no. Do you want to flick the light switch? Yes, no. But it's a throwback to, I mean, the picture of the Amiga is sort of, I guess, an illustration of what they're going for, because it's very much a throwback, and it's quite amiable until there's a bit when you are in this space station, you come across the woman from the cover, and she's been lobotomized, apparently. Right. And it cuts to a shot of your character going, and I'm like, I don't know if that's a joke or whether it's just something incredibly sinister, but whatever. It's only 69p. I may yet pick it up and play through it just to see what happens, because I was just like, and it's really nicely animated in a sort of 8-bit fashion. It's like a fair amount of work went into it, and care as well. I was just like, that's not what I expected. Aside from that weird lobotomized beauty in the bed, I mean, I thought it was really quite charming, but I only did a trial, so I may play it again just because it was completely unexpected.
Yeah, that sounds weird, unless this is just some elongated confession to your new fetish of little anime girls.
Yeah. I don't know what that means.
Okay, my number 6 is Ryse, Xbox One.
Oh, yeah.
I don't like this game.
What?
I just don't. I went back and I was like, I'll give it one more go. I will give it one more go. And I was plodding away doing the combat is so boring to me. I don't like it. It feels like a giant QTE. I'm sick of seeing the execution animations already. I don't like the fact that he feels so light and he can roll so quickly when he should be heavy. It's just so tedious. I got to another bit where you had to pick up the sticks and chuck them at people, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. So yeah, I tapped out again.
That's really. I don't get it. How long have you played it for?
I think that's about halfway through, maybe.
Oh, I didn't have time. For me, it didn't have time to get boring.
I was bored by second level.
Are you using the stomp move where it turns everything to slow motion?
Stomp move.
The RB. You can build up certain parts of the tree. You can, and then you.
Not really. No. I know what you mean, but no, not really.
And then you can sort of have it so that every time you take damage, it either builds up your health. Every time there's a benefit to attacks. So there's the skill trees actually.
It's just the combat. There's a chubby guy with a beard. He's gonna be the guy that comes at you. You knock his sword back, but he's got a shield, so you've got to press the button that makes his shield go down before you can hack him. And then another guy's attacking you, but he's the guy with the axe, so you have to dodge that guy. It just felt so rogue, but I wanted to love it.
Well, I mean, I suppose, like I said at the time, who knows how it's going to be 6 months down the line, because at the time it was one of the best looking games I'd ever seen, and yeah, I still enjoyed it, and it didn't get boring for me at all. But yeah, it's another shame. I take it that's it for you with that one as well.
Yeah, it was a double tap out on Xbox One games within the space of an hour or so.
Oh well,
it's a bit of a shame, but never mind.
Shambles. Okay, all right, never mind then. Yeah. Okay, right. Well, my number 5 is a game called Don't Look Back on. Again, I played it on a browser, so I played it on a Mac, but it's available on PC. It's also available on iOS. I played this. This was a listener recommendation, and as it started, I was like, "Oh, I forgot I played this. I spoke about it on the podcast like maybe a year ago." But I played it on iOS at the time. I think it was free. I don't know if it's still free, but look for it. Don't Look Back. It's by Terry Kavanagh, who made most famous for.
Super Hexagon,
Super Hexagon,
yeah.
And yeah, so it's free. It's on Congregate, but Google Don't Look Back and you'll find it. It's a very minimalistic platformer that looks like an Atari 2600 game, and it's also sort of kind of a shooter. You're a person at the beginning standing beside a grave before you descend down off a large cliff and then sort of progress through various screens, Pitfall style. There are genuine comparisons to be made here between this and Dark Souls. I know apparently every game is like Dark Souls to someone or other, but in addition to the kind of starkness and the grim atmosphere, which is conveyed with almost nothing, I mean, the fact that there's a real sort of I mean, it's really a very unsettling game, and it's done with the tools are so primitive. It's also amazingly difficult. I remember I bailed on the iOS version after I failed to beat a boss like 20, 30 times. Here, I smashed him the second time, primarily because I think keyboard controls are superior to the touchscreen on iOS. But a few screens after that, I got to a bit with a disappearing platform, and I attempted it maybe 30 times, and probably more than 30 times. And after that, I just started to tune out, and I just lost interest in it because it was just aggressively difficult. You have to sort of the tiniest pinpoint. Success and failure was the tiny. I was like, I don't have the time for this. The controls are really taut and it's really fast paced. Because if you fail, you just start the same screen again. You never go back anywhere. I'd like to see the ending because it's a very weird game. Although there isn't a narrative as such, you get the feeling that it is going somewhere. But I don't think I'll ever do it. But definitely one to play if you haven't. Don't Look Back. Play it on a browser, or I'm pretty sure the iOS version was permanently free. If it's not, it's 69p. But play it on a browser. Don't Look Back. Done.
Yeah, I need to play that. I love his stuff.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's just taut. You can't fault it.
Yeah, I'll check that out for sure. Okie dokie. My number 5 is another browser game. This one's called Ripple Runner Deluxe. I don't know how I found out about this. I think someone just mentioned it on social somewhere. Really, really cool combination of a platform game and a rhythm action game. You're this little, like, fucking animal, I don't know. And you're running along in time to music. And below is basically a series of platforms which are like your reflection. It's like you're running on water. And you press a button and you can switch from the top level to running upside down on the bottom level, and there's another button to jump. And everything goes in time to the music. And it's just really good. It's just... it works really well as a rhythm action game. It's tricky and clever enough as a platform game as well. And yeah, it's just highly recommended. The tunes are kind of chiptune-y, but they're good tunes. And it's just, a really, really fine game. I think I played through 2/3 of the levels. It's not a hugely long game. I meant to go and finish it, but I forgot that it existed until I just remembered today. But very, very good. You'll love it. I know that.
Yeah.
It starts to quickly get into things where you have to hit jump and then switch the polarity or whatever in midair, and then jump and switch the polarity back in midair, but it's all going to the music, and it hits the timing's done really well to the different parts of the beat and whatnot. Clearly a person who's studied the genre and knows why it works, not just how it works. And I don't have anything bad to say about it. Another really good browser game, the week of good browser games.
Yeah. I can't remember whether it was last week, but in the last month I've spoken about another great rhythm action browser game, the Guitar Hero, whatever it was called, Super Guitar Hero Maniac Part 7 or whatever it was called. What was that game called?
This one here?
Yeah.
Ripple Runner Deluxe.
Sounds great.
Yeah, it's really good. It's corker.
Okay. Is it just a Google job, or is it...
Yeah, just Google Ripple Runner, you'll find it, yeah. I Googled Rhythm Ripple and I found it because I'd forgotten what it was called.
Okay, all right. That sounds great. Okay, my number 4 is Battlefield 4. I just stuck it on my list because I've been playing it so much and I didn't have time to replace it with anything else. But I suppose it gives us a moment to talk about Battlefield Hardline, which got leaked in the week. But quickly on the subject of Battlefield 4, but it's more related to Titanfall, but more related to the Xbox One. If someone's writing an encyclopedia of the dumb decisions made in the development of the Xbox One, I've not found another because I've known about it for ages, but I haven't mentioned this before, I don't think. When you receive a game invite, it comes up on your screen. You have to hold the X button for about 1.5 seconds, and then it pulls you into the game.
Yeah.
If you hold down the X button for 2.5 seconds, it turns the pad off.
Yeah.
Doesn't ask you whether you want to turn it off, it just turns the pad off. So the amount of times people have sent me an invite and I've gone and pressed the button and then it's turned the pad off, you're just like, any other button, please. Any other button on the fucking pad, not the off button, honestly. But yeah, that happens more and more, and I'm just like, my friends have got it down to a fine art. It is about 1.5 seconds. But yeah, anyway, Div. But yeah, Battlefield 4, been playing a lot of Battlefield 4. It's working okay in the last week. But yeah, Battlefield Hardline. It's I assume people have seen this now. The trailer. I think have they released it officially now?
I think so. I think they've just kind of gotten and put it all out there and said, yeah, this is happening.
Yeah. Have you watched the whole thing?
I haven't. I've watched. I kind of skimmed it. I didn't have time to watch the whole thing, but I will do.
Yeah, I mean, it looks ridiculously good. I mean, it's made by Visceral, and Visceral are just like, they're a really, really tight unit, and it's now up there in my most anticipated games of the year because it looks like Payday 2, and the two things that were wrong with Payday was that it wasn't particularly polished and it was really repetitive because almost everything you did in Payday involved you holding a button down for a certain amount of time. And this looks like it's really pushing against the sort of. It really looks like it's the game that Payday 2 threatened to be, and it's being written by really, really high caliber writers who's like cut their teeth in some of the best shows on TV, American dramas and stuff.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it's was it Mad Men? One of the guys I know writes for that superb thing with Timothy Olyphant in it.
Oh, Justified.
Justified. Have you watched that?
I've watched one episode. Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's really good. But yeah, so it's got. I don't know. It just has the little bits of dialogue they showed. It's got a little bit of a kick to it. I don't know. It looks so good. It looks like amazing. It's a shame that they've had to shackle it with the Battlefield brand, which is now in the toilet. But yeah, I can't wait for that game. It's, as far as I'm concerned, it's a completely unrelated action. It is a completely unrelated action game being made by Visceral, who have made several games that I've thought were superb. So it's going to kick ass.
Is there a campaign?
Yes, I mean the campaign is that's what's important. But the other reason I think it's okay to be hopeful about it is that there's none of the. I think the multiplayer is going to exclusively be cops versus robbers. It's not going to be 64 players.
Yeah.
So all of the teething problems and the headaches that they had with that, they're not going to have here. I mean, it looks so exciting. It really does. Hey,
we hope.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, DICE are involved. It's funny that the best PR move they could possibly make right now is to just try and stress that DICE aren't actually involved. But I'm reluctant to blame DICE these days. I think EA are just fucking, that whole situation is them EA trying to bleed as much out of a team as they possibly could. But blah, blah, blah. Anyway, Battlefield Hardline, go and find that 7-minute trailer. It looks absolutely immense, although it has nothing to do with Battlefield at all.
I will go and watch it. Yeah.
Do it!
Yeah, we'll do. I'll reach my number, where are we, 4? Was that your 4?
That was my 4.
Okay, my number 4 is Among the Sleep on PC. This game is actually out today, May 29th, as we're recording, on Steam. And I've been playing the review build. But unfortunately, my review build didn't save, so it's reset me to the beginning. So I played slightly less than I'd wanted to on this. This is the Norwegian... it's made by a bunch of Norwegian students, and it is the sort of horror-y type game the way you play as a toddler, a 2-year-old. And in the first trailer, they showed him. It's played from the first-person perspective, and they showed this really cool trailer with him toddling downstairs and then getting downstairs, and it's all really creepy, and drawers fly out, and it just looked like terrifying, to be honest. And a really cool concept to play as a toddler. The game starts with you as obviously the toddler. I think you're in your playpen playing with your blocks, and your mum comes in, and the voice acting is not amazing, but it's fine. And then it's just a quick tutorial of showing how you can move around as a little kid. Crawling's faster than running, which is a cool mechanic. You can climb. I mean, they've really captured being a little toddler. You know, having a kid. My kid's a tiny bit older than that now, but obviously can remember him being 2 years old, and they're still quite wobbly on their feet, but they can do stuff and climb up shit. And yeah, they've kind of nailed that quite well. Even little touches like when you press pause, it puts the hands over the face, so you can see like the shadowy outlines of the fingers. Just really nice touches like that. And then as you go a bit further, you meet a Teddy, which you got for your second birthday, who's actually voiced by the person who does the voice of Mojo Jojo from the Powerpuff Girls, who's one of my all-time favourite monkeys. So, so that was pretty good. And then it just starts going into kind of creepiness, but I get the impression that it's all about experiencing a child's imagination and how that can go out of control, rather than just trying to be a Slender Man, start jumping out shit. Like I said, I got a bit further and started to get creepy, and some stuff happens with the Teddy, but it's nothing, no jump scares or anything like that. Just really nice atmospheric game. Looks nice as well. Stop because I thought I wanted to stop and go back to it today, and unfortunately, the build that I'm playing didn't save, so I'm going to wait for the Steam build to appear and start again. I didn't play so much that I wasn't prepared to start again, and it's a game I've been following literally since that first trailer. But I don't actually know how much it's going to be on Steam, because I got a review code, and so I never saw the price, but I should go and check that actually. But I want to give like a cautious recommendation about it right now. I definitely haven't played enough to give my full reviewer hat recommendation, but certainly if you're into that genre, and a lot of people are, the kind of PC horror-y genre, this seems like very, very interesting take on it. And they've definitely captured the sense of playing as a toddler, which is such a cool idea anyway, really well, in the way that the camera moves and the way that the use of sound, and obviously you being so much lower than you're used to being in a first-person game. And I'm very, very excited to play more. Yeah, it's been a tough week in terms of games, because there's been a few things out this week, so it was tough to find time to play this properly. But yeah, funny name aside, very a cautious recommendation, more next week.
Cool. Okay, is it coming to PS4?
It is coming to PS4 with Project Morpheus support. It currently has Oculus support, but I do not have an Oculus headset. But yeah, it is coming to PS4, but no release date yet. Okay.
Bearing in mind it's the day of release, should your review code not be the build that's going to be on Steam?
My review is a complicated situation where some of the Steam codes that they sent out didn't work as they'd planned. So yeah, it should have been, but I got a backup build. But yeah, it's one of those situations that doesn't even need to be spoken about. But
okay, yeah. All right, fair enough. Yeah,
it may be my fault that it didn't save as well. I'm not sure.
All right. Okay. Well, yeah, I will look forward to playing that on the PlayStation, and I look forward to reading the reviews over the next few days, especially.
Yeah, I've not seen any reviews yet, which is strange, because I know I've had the code a couple of days, and I assume people have had it a bit longer. But hopefully it gets some press.
Yeah, indeed, it does sound interesting. Okay, my number 3. I have a feeling that our top 3 are basically the same, perhaps in a different order, or perhaps in the same order.
I reckon.
Okay, well, my number 3 is Transistor on the PlayStation 4.
Okay, that's technically my 2, but let's just swap. I can't speak. Let's switch them around.
Okay, well, go ahead then.
All right, Transistor, the new game from Supergiant, who did Bastion. This is their second game. And this, again, similar style to Bastion in terms of isometric environments, hand-painted. The whole game has a voiceover that kind of carries the story. But where it differs from Bastion, that was more of a classic action Diablo-style hack-and-slash game. And this is a kind of curious mix of turn-based RPG and that type of action game as well. But just rewinding for a second, you play as a voiceless singer called Red, who, at the beginning of the game, pulls a giant blue sword out of a corpse, and the sword is called Transistor, and that sword contains the soul of her lover, chap. don't know his name, and he speaks to her, but obviously she can't speak back, and that's the kind of dynamic of the storytelling. It's all set in this futuristic kind of cyber city controlled by technology called Cloud Bank, which is beautifully realised by the artists there. I mean, they are quite something, and I mean, it's kind of like this 4-hour curious game that's underpinned by this combat system, which is really quite interesting. Basically, you go into an environment and enemies spawn in, or they're already there, and then it's kind of difficult to explain. You can move around and use your attacks, one of which is on each face button. Actually, this is really difficult to explain, so I'm going to do it in a few. I'm going to do it in a few. I've already written my review, so I'm going to try and remember what I wrote about, try and explain it as I did there. So first of all, you have attacks on the face button. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 on the 4 face buttons of a PlayStation controller, and you can use them in real time, but they're kind of slow. So the idea being that you can freeze time using something called a turn, and then move red around the environment. That will use up. You have a bar at the top of the screen. Moving takes up some of that bar, and then you can launch attacks, and that will also take up some of that bar. So you have a finite amount of resource for that turn to do whatever you want, be it moving, be it launching an attack that cuts through 2 enemies in a line, or an attack that smashes something up close and causes them damage or whatnot. So that's where the turn-based stuff comes in. And that works really elegantly. It's a very elegant system. The idea being that you quickly have a move that you can teleport. So early on, for example, the idea is you teleport near an enemy, smash them, maybe use the one that can cut through enemies in a line to get a couple, then kind of teleport back behind cover, and then the game goes back into real time, and you have to wait 2 or 3 seconds for your turn to recharge, and then do it again. Next level of complications coming now. You quickly get more abilities. The game calls them functions. So you go, okay, I've got a new attack. I'm going to switch out my one that was on square for this one. But as you play more, you realise, okay, well, these attacks have also got slots underneath them in the menu. And any of the attacks that you have, the game calls them functions, remember, you can use as a secondary buff or ability almost to an existing one. You can also, as you unlock it later on, use any of them as a passive thing on your kind of loadout screen, all of which does different things. So you start creating this loadout for your character using all these different functions. It sounds incredibly complicated. It kind of is incredibly complicated. Somehow, without barely explaining any of it, for me anyway, the game just started to make sense quite quickly through a combination of light experimentation and just a lot of very, very, very well-crafted guidance, I can only imagine, from the designers, because there's no point where the game sits you down and makes you do a 10-minute tutorial, which most games would do. There is some tutorial stuff early on, but it's very light, and it just subtly introduces you to these systems. And for someone like me who it doesn't really play that genre that much anyway, and does struggle when things start to get a bit complicated in terms of loadouts and slots and all that sort of stuff. It's never been something that I grew up with, so I'm always feel like I'm fighting a losing battle with that stuff. For some reason, I just started to get it straight away. And you start to develop your own tactics and different ways of playing and different loadouts, and they alter as you go through. The penalty to getting hit, once your health bar goes down, you lose one of your 4 attacks. So for a certain amount of time, normally a couple of battles, you have to find these little things in the world, I can't remember what they're called, and they allow you to go in and piss about with your different functions. You normally, if you lose one, you have to go and find a couple of those before you can get it back. Deep breath. Right. So yeah, it's complicated, but the game does an incredibly elegant job of somehow explaining it and making it seem less complicated than it is. And the whole game is very light and loose on information and exposition. It's a lot of it's open to interpretation. The story is kind of distancing and cold, which is probably my biggest criticism of it, although I am in admiration of it in some ways as well. By the end of the game, I had very little idea of what would happen. The game obviously wanted you to play it through again. It makes it clear that it wants you to to go through a second time, and it adapts accordingly. But the storytelling, as nicely as the dialogue is delivered and as well written as it is, it was so kind of cold and distancing for me that I never really felt engaged. And when it came to the kind of emotional punches towards the end of the story, I just felt kind of divorced from them. And as kind of not charming, but as like impressive and clever as the combat is, it never really enthralled me. It was never a point where I was like, fucking sweet after a battle. It just kind of was happening. So as much as I admire this game and I admire Supergiant as artists, and I have no doubt in my mind that Transistor is exactly the game that they wanted to make. I don't think they've compromised in the slightest. I love the fact that a game like this exists. It didn't quite grab me quite as much as I perhaps wanted it to. So I'd be interested to hear what you think.
Yeah, I mean, it did. I mean, I engaged with the story as well, which I think is one of its biggest. I thought it was a feat of storytelling, basically.
Right.
As odd. I mean, what a strange aesthetic and what an odd story. But actually, the game it reminded me most of aesthetically is El Shaddai, which the combination of otherworldly music and completely out there visuals. I mean, you could say you're almost in space, but why not make space blue? It's just a completely another. You're in another place completely when you're playing it. But yeah, the upgrade structure and the sort of the all of that stuff is absurdly complicated. You have to basically learn its language. Everything has a name, and if you don't learn it first time, you'll get very confused. That was a problem for me initially because. It's a problem with science fiction games. It's a problem with science fiction in general, but it's a selling point to other people. I find that language, that kind of in-depth, we've created a name for everything, and everything's got it comes, all of that sort of backstory for little trinkets and stuff. I find that to be very evasive, and it kind of distracts me from the game, and I'm trying to understand what's ABC, and you're reading this page about all of this stuff that I think is unnecessary, but for some that's a selling point. But yeah, like you said, after a while, you just are kind of forced into experimenting a little bit. And this is a game that flourishes when you experiment. I mean, but at first, the first hour was really tough for me because in addition to all of those sort of elements which you can use passively, aggressively, or buff other parts of your inventory, there's these limiters which have their own upgrade system where you can mix and match them. And that's just... intimidating as all hell. That's just a way for you to make the game more difficult for you if you want. But it's a game that thrives when you experiment with it and you try different things with different weapons. And I think you could probably plough through the game with what you're given at the beginning. But like I said, it really flourishes when you play around a little, experiment with melding different functions with each other in different ways. And its short duration is just an indication of the fact that you're meant to play through it multiple times. I mean, it's between 3 and 4 hours long, I think. Yeah. I think that the people, if this clicks with you, you'll play through it 3 times, no problem. And I really did enjoy the combat, and I am planning to go through it again. So, an incredibly strange game, and just clearly the work of a very small and very talented team. And yeah, I'd say give it a shot. It's I was really, really quite enchanted by it, and gripped as well for the entire duration.
Yeah, I like I said, it was. Just left me cold's the wrong word because that suggests that I didn't enjoy it, and I did really enjoy it. It just didn't. I felt like there was a gap between me and the game. Then I wanted to be a bit closer to it. That's all. But I am in such admiration of them as a team, and I'm so happy that a game like this can exist and hopefully do well. Bastion did very, very, very well for them, which is Bastion's slightly easier to get your head around and kind of get on board with straight away, I think. But yeah, wow. I mean, to come out as your second game and just to put it out there like that is something, and the music's fantastic as well. I forgot to explain that. I mean, it really is good. Yeah,
it's and it's quintessentially a video game. I was trying to cherry pick science fiction games especially. You just like that's the references are all there to be sort of pulled from the. Yeah, but in this, I was just kind of like, this kind of reminds me of like a rock opera or something that's so completely divorced from reality, and the fact that the visuals make it look like I don't even know what I mean, it's a real pleasure to be that completely far from reality. I will play through it again. I thought it was very, very, and as intimidating as the stuff at the beginning is. I think that the gameplay, it's never really difficult.
No.
I'm sure that comes when you choose to go through it again. It's actually quite mild first time round, but I'm sure it's going to blossom into something altogether on the second playthrough. So yeah. Hell of a game. No, I really, really liked it.
Yeah, I dug it definitely. And the one of the characters kind of doing a bit of a Matthew McConaughey thing as well, which is kind of cool. Thought he pulled it off quite well. Anyway,
what does that mean?
One of the antagonists' voices is clearly a homage to recent Matthew McConaughey performances.
Oh, did you think?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, okay. Oh, I didn't.
Particularly True Detective.
Okay. Oh, I didn't pick up on that, but I'll play through it again and maybe I'll seed it.
Homage is probably not the right word, but definitely like inspired by, I'd say.
Yeah. I get you.
All right, that was our threes, right? So our twos probably is our Wolfenstein.
Wolfenstein The New Order.
Yeah, The New Order. Mine is actually my three because I haven't played as much of it as I would have liked, but I played a good chunk. So yeah, you go. Oh, you did it last week. Shall I go?
Yeah, I mean, I basically did it last week.
Yeah, okay. So I wasn't going to get this, and then I saw it was 25 quid on PC, which is a lot cheaper than 50, 60 quid on PlayStation 4. So I bought it. And at first I was like, oh my God, this is a nightmare because it did not run well. That first level where you're inside a plane that's crashing, like classic set PC type level, does not run well on PC. And I went online and everyone was like, oh yeah, Wolfenstein on PC is a mess, blah, blah, blah. Or there's a problem with drivers and stuff. And I was like, no, I do not want to be spending my time playing this game just in the menu every 2 seconds trying to sort it out. And then got to the bit where the game starts, I guess you could say, after all that bollocks, and whacked the settings down a little bit, but it looks imperceptibly different to having it on the high settings anyway, and then suddenly it just started to run quite smoothly. It's not perfect. I think it would probably, for me, run better on a console than on my solid PC. My PC is a bit more powerful than a PS4, but it's not a monster by any stretch. But anyway, after that opening, which I wasn't massively keen on, the game started to get really good straight away. Really started to dig it, mainly because the cutscenes, weirdly, as much as I've enjoyed the shooting so far, I like the fact that you can go kind of balls to the wall, or that it has a kind of softer edge to it as well. Where you want it, but I kind of really enjoyed the storytelling and the cutscenes. I guess, I mean, it's from Jens Mattis, who's the guy that was the creative lead on Riddick and on the first Darkness game and stuff, so it should come as no surprise to me. But considering they've basically you are playing as John Cena, the wrestler, basically. He looks exactly like John Cena, and he's still like a character. I mean, I was straight on board with him. He's done really well. That opening choice is really kind of harsh, and I just I mean, I'm not a huge amount into the game, but I'm really looking forward to getting back to it. I wish I could kind of speak with more confidence about it, because I haven't played enough. Like I said, it should have been my 3 and not my 2, but yeah, just really enjoying what I've played so far. The shooting feels good. I mean, I've definitely seen spots in the AI, guys running into walls and stuff, but it's not been anything that's... It's not like a case of I can't finish a level because a guy's stuck behind a box and I don't know where he is. It's just like a guy's being an idiot, but I'll just kill him. And then, it's not Halo. You know, it ain't a classic world-class combat game. But in terms of kind of a modern AAA FPS single-player experience, really digging it so far. Love the way the kind of robots look. The fact that they've managed to tonally, for me, from what I've played so far, mix utter daftness with a kind of serious, but it's like they've got something really daft but just made it about the people and kind of drawn the people in a believable way, but yet they're completely comic book. It's kind of so far quite skillful. Looking forward to seeing where it goes. I hear it just keeps getting better.
Yeah, it does. There is one dud level towards the end, but it's not so awful that it can't recover from it, because it does. It's such a throwback. I mean, I started playing it again I started dipping into different levels, playing it on hard, and it's brutally difficult and almost proud of these ferocious difficulty spikes that crop up. But I remember speaking about this in relation to, because I went back and played the original Crysis, a few months ago.
Yeah.
And it's that kind of difficulty where you can never get by repeating yourself. You have to experiment. It's a lost pleasure. It's a really really old school game. I mean, I honestly think the people who will receive this the best are people who are old enough to have played and loved the original Wolfenstein, because it really is utterly a throwback in that sense. I also like the fact that it globetrots. I mean, you're not very far into it, but it does bounce around the globe. So it's kind of like a James Bond film, only with Nazis, which is to say an Indiana Jones game, sorry, not film, but with incredibly heavy-duty gore and blood. Yeah. It's like I said to you the other day, it's just, you can't argue with class. It's just profoundly entertaining. And
they really draw the Nazis as real fuckers.
Yeah,
very quickly.
I think that I really think that because people really, like I said last week, people really want to kill Nazis in video games. You know, there aren't a lot of unambiguous villains in life, but there's something that people always go overboard. Not necessarily overboard, but yeah, you can embellish characters like that. In ways that you probably couldn't get away with unless they were sort of these sort of Nazis from 50, 60 years ago or whatever. But yeah, I mean, it's a terrifically entertaining game, and by all accounts, it sold really well. Also pirated, like the most pirated game of the last 2 years or something.
Oh, really?
There was some news headline saying that it had been pirated like 100,000 times. Although apparently Bethesda had deliberately weighted because it's like 56 gig or something.
It's 45 gig, yeah.
45 gig, yeah. Apparently, a lot of that's just nonsense to try and deter pirates.
No, really?
Apparently, well, I think that's a bit of a conspiracy theory, but yeah, I mean, a very entertaining game, very entertaining indeed.
I managed to download those 45 gigs on PC quicker than the 2 gigs of Transistor on PS4. So, cheers, Sony. Nice one.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, I mean, the PS4 is definitely better than the PS3.
Yeah.
But it's still, yeah, my Transistor took ages to download as well.
Yeah, someone else's that I know did as well. So I think it's a specific problem with that game, which is weird.
Oh, okay, yeah. I was going to say I haven't had noticed any other problems on the PS4. But
for sure, pumped to get back into Wolfenstein. The reason I wasn't going to buy it is because I don't have time. I don't have time, but yeah, it's ticking the boxes. It's definitely ticking the boxes. I had one more thing to say about it, but I think I've forgotten. So maybe I'll remember for next week.
Okay.
Don't mind.
Well, yeah, indeed, it's good. Go pick it up if you haven't.
Yeah, and it'll probably be 20 quid in a couple of weeks, which is sad but true.
Sad but true, indeed.
All right then, let's do our number ones, I guess.
Yeah,
which is Watch_Dogs. You're playing on Xbox One. I'm playing on PlayStation 4. I believe I'm a fair bit further than you. Is that fair to say?
Yes, I'm probably about 7 hours in, so I'm not very far in at the moment.
Yeah, I would. Yes, I'm creeping towards the halfway mark in the story, and I've done good chunks of all the different types of side quests that you can do. So I received a text message from you last night, which was kind of anti-Watch Dogs, so I'm kind of interested to see where that has led to. Now you've played it more, but I guess I'll just go into my chat about the game, shall I?
Yeah,
okay, so everybody, I'm assuming, knows what the game is. Ubisoft's 5-year plan of an open-world game made its debut at E3 2012 with a stunning-looking gameplay trailer, I guess you could call it, kind of gameplay video. Obviously, the final game doesn't look quite that good, and that's caused outrage amongst some. Not to me. To me, I think it looks absolutely fantastic on PlayStation 4. It doesn't look as good as that thing, but whatever. It also runs very, very nicely on PS4. I've had no bugs, no glitches, runs super smooth. The frame rate and everything like that, and it feels like something that I couldn't be playing on an older console. Anyway, you play as Aiden Pierce, this hacker guy who, from behind, basically looks like me. He's got a hat on and a coat, and he is in the city of Chicago. He's an established hacker in this world. It doesn't, this isn't his origin story or anything like that. You know, he is part of this world of Chicago that is run by this thing called ctOS, which is a computer infrastructure that runs everything from the traffic lights to security and everything like that, and it sort of has a lot in common with what's happening now with Google and everything like that in terms of invasion of privacy and profiling and all that sort of stuff. You have, as Aiden Pierce, a smartphone, and that also doubles up as a thing called a profiler, which you'd have seen if you've seen any of the trailers. When you walk down the street, it will zap up a little one-line piece of information and the name and occupation of everybody that you walk past in the street. So it kind of gives the city of Chicago a sense of humanity, but it's so kind of singular. Every single piece of information you get about everyone, you can't help but think of them almost as computer people. It's kind of this weird thing, but it totally works within the tone of the game. Anyway, goodness me. Watch Dogs is definitely an open world game in the Grand Theft Auto mold. Mission givers, side quests, action, guns, cars, all these things are there. It's definitely not quite the cerebral game that perhaps many hoped it would be. It's definitely very much an action game for the most part. But I will say, for me, it does a lot that this genre hasn't done before. And it took me a little while to get my head around some of that, but once I did, I started to really, really enjoy some of the scenarios that it delivered up. Okay, so most missions, a lot of missions anyway, will involve getting to a restricted area, Assassin's Creed Far Cry style. This definitely borrows from other Ubisoft open world games. An area that if you go in and people see you, they're going to shoot you. And you'll need to get something in that world. Maybe you'll need to kill a guy there. Maybe you'll need to find a server that you need to hack. Little things like that. And the game just allows you to do that in any single way that you can think of, really. You can go in guns blazing, and I think the third-person combat is really, really solid. I certainly recommend turning the auto-aim down to minimal, so it's not quite as easy and makes the gunfights feel a bit more organic. But real crisp shooting. I actually think the shooting in this is better than the shooting in Grand Theft Auto. Had some absolutely corking shootouts in it. But brilliantly, you can also do most of these, in fact, maybe all of them, certainly. It does seem like that way. You can actually often get to the goal of what you need to be doing in one of these scenarios, and by not going into it, which is amazing, just by hacking cameras and moving. Every time you're in a camera feed, you can also do your hacking stuff that the camera can see. As long as you've got the line of sight, whether it be through your own eyes or the camera, you can do the hacking stuff. That might be blowing up something on the ground or opening a gate or different things. All happens on one button. Actually, like Syndicate, which I don't think anyone else has mentioned, but it's very similar. The new Syndicate, that is. Some of the most outstanding moments I've had in this game of when I've not even entered these zones, and I've done it all from outside, all by kind of solving this spatial puzzle using cameras and distracting guards, and then finding a guard with a camera on his head, and as he walks around following his route round. When I've done that, I felt like a total badass. And the game will let you play from anywhere from guns blazing all the way to that and everything in between, and blending all the different areas. And I've just tackled the same mission many different ways if I failed it, tackled like subsequent missions completely differently. The game doesn't restrict you to being just a stealthy guy and you'll get one tech tree or anything like that. It doesn't restrict you in that respect. And it just gave me a sense of freedom in the missions that I mean, some of the best I've played in this genre in terms of that. I like the style of the game. The story is serious, but I'm following it. I've read a lot of stuff where people say the story starts to make no sense quite quickly. I'm still completely with the story. It could do with a log of some description. So if you do miss a line here or there, you could go back and read it just to keep on top of a lot of information, quite a lot of characters, and some of them have funny names. But yeah, I'm still with the story, and I dig the vibe of the game. It definitely has a sense of a paranoia kind of riding through it. I think the city is really well realised. It's probably outside of Rockstar. It's not as good as a Rockstar city. It doesn't have that same sense of place. It just doesn't. But outside of that, I think it's probably up there with the best open world cities that we've seen. I mean, it has a sense of place. There's a lot of variety in the environments of the different areas, the poor areas, the inner city, the big buildings and whatnot. And the score, the game, it also has some licensed music, not enough, but the score of the game is absolutely superb. I think it's just absolutely, genuinely brilliant, kind of brooding synths and electronica stuff that matches the tone of what you're doing every single time. I'm just really digging it so far. It's had some duff moments. There are some A few duff missions we have to tail people, a few insta-fail things, a few little bits here and there that fuck me off for sure. I don't think it's a world-class, world beater. GTA 5 is a better game, I think, already. It has a lot more personality. The world feels so much more complete. And it just is a bit better. Walking down the street in Watch Dogs doesn't give you the same vibe as walking down the street in GTA does. But I mean, personally for me, I kind of got a feeling that a lot of people had it out for this game for some reason in the last 6 months, and I've never really understood that kind of thought process anyway. But I was really surprised by some of the. I've gone back and read a lot of the reviews, and I think perhaps the fact that a lot of people, and I've had to do this over the years, we were stuck in what I assume was a hotel and had to try and race through was an enormous game very quickly, without the online stuff as well. That might have damaged their experience. I certainly have had that in big games before myself, but I don't want to try and second guess. Maybe they just didn't like it, but not that it just got bad scores. But for me, I seem to be enjoying it a lot more than some of the reviewers are. I certainly don't have any. Some people seem to be wanting to stick the knife into this game for no reason. People who haven't played it, classic stuff. It just seems to be the latest game that's the people want to do that with. No, I never really got that. But yeah, cracking. I have one more note that I forgot to say was the invasion stuff, which as I'm playing on PS4, the servers are a bit knackered, but it's happened to me a fair old amount of times, and I've done it to other people as well. You can be playing, and suddenly someone's invaded your world, and it does tell you, and they're trying to hack you. They're trying to find you and set it's called a backdoor or something, but basically they're trying to hide in the world, and then a timer's going down, and you want to find them and profile them with your phone before that timer runs out. And they hack you, and they get some of your notoriety, which is like a separate currency, which leads to other skills. That mode's really cool. When you're hacked, it's a panic to try and find this person. Even in the grand scheme of things, even if they do hack you, it's not the end of the world. But you don't want someone to get it over on you. And also, you can dive into someone else's game and hack them. And if you manage to do that, find a good hiding spot, and then you're using cameras to watch them just spazzing around the world trying to find you, that is pretty fucking funny. More often than not, they will find you, shoot you in the head. Well, nothing ventured, nothing gained. But I've really enjoyed that as something that's kind of slipped into the campaign naturally. I think it's a really interesting thing. Perhaps it's not as well realised as it could be, but I think it's a cool idea. I like the fact that doesn't feel like a separate mode. It just feels like part of the game. So yeah, that was the last note. I have other things to say about the game, but yeah, I've been talking for like 29 minutes, I think. So yeah, what do you think?
Well, I know what you're talking about with regards to a backlash, but this is one of the reasons why I hadn't seen this E3 reveal that everyone went nuts about. I'd seen bits and pieces of images, but it's just a video game, and the problem with seeing something as impressive in a trailer is that people start expecting it to be something more than a video game. It was never the people who are expecting something it was never going to deliver, and that happens all the time. That happens the whole year round, but. What can you do? I had a terrible. My first hour and a half with this was pretty much. I can't remember the last time I've had a worse experience with the game, and partially this is down to the Xbox One, as is everything these days. First of all, the loading times are pretty drastic. When you started playing Grand Theft Auto 5 on 360, there was a very, very lengthy load time when you started the game up, but then that was it. The game was loaded, and everything else flowed unbelievably well. It still amazes me, that game, but here they're not. The loading times aren't quite on that scale. But every time you die, even if you're jumping in and retrying a mission you've just done, the loading times are really like 15 seconds a time. It doesn't sound like long, but when you're sitting there, the loading times are not great on Xbox One anyway. Also, the very first mission in the game, I encountered a glitch whereby when I was finally given control of Aiden, is it Aiden? Yeah, after a cutscene, I just froze and I couldn't move. The only thing I could possibly do was quit and go back to the beginning of the game, so I had to watch almost 10 minutes of unskippable cutscenes, and I had to do that twice. Then randomly I was moving and it was fine, and during the middle of a car chase in the subsequent mission, I can't remember, it signed me out of my account for absolutely no reason, and then I signed back in, by which time obviously I'd lost my progress in that mission, but Kinect wouldn't recognise me, and no matter what I did, The Xbox One, for people who don't own it, is... Yeah, we've spoken about it quite a lot. And then after that, it kept freezing for upwards of 5 seconds at a time during a car chase, and the frame rate would drop to a crawl, and then it would freeze for 5 seconds. The sound effects were still going, and then it would just go back in. And I was like, okay, this was in my opening hour. And then tiny little details that are specific to me. The beginning cutscene, there's just exposition all over it, and nothing bothers me more than exposition when I'm trying to get involved in a story. One of the first lines of dialogue is, what we do is siphon bank accounts out of thin air. And I'm like, are you talking to me, mate, or are you talking to the guy who you're supposed to have worked with for a decade? It's so inorganic and wrong that this guy suddenly decides to explain the shit, but that's just specific to me. But once I finally got past what's basically a tutorial, I went and picked my own first mission, which was, as it turns out, a side mission, which is one of the worst missions I've ever done in any game. All you have to do is take a car from A to B, but it was impossible to structure a plan because the destination changed every time you started again. And I must have failed it 10, 12 times. And the way the game works is once you've evaded the cops, they basically put this yellow spotlight thing on the map. It's like some kind of electronic tracking device, but it's basically a spotlight. And for some reason during that mission, those spotlights just landed. I drive out of one and you're in the middle of one again, and this ticker goes up to 100%. So, and when it gets to 100, the police are on you again, and that kept happening. Honestly, I texted you and I was like, this game's 3 out of 10. I don't want to play this. It's absolute trash. But anyway, after I somehow got past that hellish mission, I jumped into I started playing the campaign missions. I ignored the side missions. I did do some later on, but I jumped straight into the campaign. And to be fair, the first thing that happened when I picked my first campaign mission is the main character goes to his sister's place, and he says, "Oh, they must be out back." So I walked around to the left of the house, and the left side of the house was inaccessible because of a freestanding wall of leaves. So I had to walk round to the right side of the house, and then I could just walk into the house. I was like, what year are we in? What is this game? This is like a fucking N64 game. I don't get it. Anyway, this still comes under the umbrella of my 90 minutes of hell. Yeah. First impressions do not get any worse. Basically, I was all but ready to really give this game it was, to be honest, I was finding it very, very hard to persevere with it. And the other thing is that, regardless of what else it is basically another superhero sandbox game. So I found it impossible not to think of both Infamous Second Son and Saints Row 4. Although it doesn't have quite the good looks of the former, and it definitely doesn't have anything like the humour of the latter. No. But the next few hours, and I'd say I've done 6, 7, maybe more than that, actually, thinking about it. It might be better than... I mean, I know it's better than Infamous already, but it might be better than Saints Row 4, which is no small thing because I love that game. Watch Dogs is absolutely not original. Absolutely everything in it is a variation of things that are tried and tested. So instead, if you're trailing a car and ensuring you don't get spotted, here you're doing the same thing, but distance is just to make sure you don't lose a tracking signal. And there are variants of Far Cry 3 surveillance towers that uncover areas of the map. Parkour obviously owes a debt to Assassin's Creed, but more than anything else, obviously, almost needless to say, the game feels like a tinkered with Grand Theft Auto. There's gang hideouts, there's car theft missions. I mean, if you squint, it kind of looks like GTA 5. I mean, on Xbox One at least. It looks like Grand Theft Auto 5, but with even worse draw distance. I mean, if you're on a motorway on the Xbox One version of Watch Dogs, the pop-in is absolutely appalling. I mean, it makes Grand Theft Auto 3 look like... Grand Theft Auto 5, sorry, a game that's on a future generation. I mean, I was just watching these cars pop in at, like, 50 in-game feet. Like, what is this? This looks like such an old-hat game, man. And then there are elements of it that, with regards to it sort of slavishly copying a lot of Grand Theft Auto 5, some of it feels really desperate. Have you done any of those psychedelics missions?
The digital trips.
Where you're bouncing off flowers.
Yeah.
Woohoo, I'm bouncing off flowers. I mean, that's very Saints Row. And even when Grand Theft Auto did it, you got the sense that they were sort of... That felt like an homage to Saints Row. But it fit Grand Theft Auto. This is such a dead serious game that, playing this campaign where you're sort of looking out for you're trying to avenge the death of a child, and it's all very... I mean, it's actually well written. I will give it that. It's the fact that there's a Watch Dog movie on the way. It doesn't surprise me in the slightest because, like you, I'm completely engaged with the story. I think it's actually very effectively constructed, and I really like your partner.
Geordie.
Yeah,
Geordie
I'm just
Chin.
like,
Yeah, he's good.
yeah, because I'm sorry, I don't know about that guy, and you get the sense that the characters those two don't really. There's distrust there, despite the fact that they're supposed to be best buds. There's a real kind of energy there that I found really, really gripping. But anyway, the fact that this has got those cartoon, hey, I'm jumping off a flower, so you can just jump to from a menu after you've gone to investigate a death that's supposed to. Yeah, it's weird. It really doesn't fit. It feels like that's the stuff that was added when all of this additional, because it was originally supposed to be released last year, blah, blah, and a lot of people have suggested on social media that they took one look at Grand Theft Auto 5, thought, oh shit, and then sort of went back to the drawing board. And I'm sure that's not entirely true, but things like this that are so out of character for the game, these side missions that are just cartoonishly, they're not really amusing because the game, it just feels like, why is this in the game? I mean, if you're going to do side missions, at least keep them sort of in tune with the aesthetic and the tone of the story. It's very weird. Also, just with regard to the gameplay, the takedown button should not be the parkour button. There is nothing worse than leaping on scenery when you're trying to take down an enemy and there's guys around you shooting. That's the worst. That's happened to me a couple of times. But it's sort of the game for me after a terrible... I mean, I can't stress enough, I hated this game for the first hour and a half. I really did. I just didn't want to play it anymore. But after that, it kind of bobbed along. But for me, there was a very, very clear turning point, and that's the mission at the end of the first act, which is, aside from the big set-piece missions where you're bouncing between characters, is as good as anything in Grand Theft Auto 5. Do you know the one I'm talking
Which
about?
one is it?
The one in the prison.
Oh, yeah.
I was just like, that was an absolute thriller. It's stealth, and then it's just like a nuts to the wall action. I just thought that whole sequence, that level was absolutely superb. And the next couple are really quite terrific as well. So after a terrible start, it's got my attention definitely. But innovative is the last thing it is. But that's not to say.
Although I think the way that you can approach the way that you can approach the stuff. Well, there's gang hideouts, like you said, and the way that you can approach them in completely different ways. And there are stuff that's in the main story that is structured similarly. The fact that you can take down a mission objective without ever walking into the environment where the mission objective is happening, and just do it all remotely. I think that's amazing.
Can you do that? I mean,
I've done it multiple times.
I've tried doing it a couple of times, but it depends on sort of very, very long-winded patterns of these sort of guys walking to and from, and sometimes I'm sitting there thinking, God, I mean, it felt like the game wanted me to run in there guns blazing, but I suppose if you can do it, then that's...
Yeah, I mean, the few times I've done it, and there's been times where I've got like 60% that way and then had to start messing with the environment to kind of force people into different directions to see, and then other times then I've just gone in myself. But the times where I have actually done it all from outside, it's like, shit, I just completed an entire mission objective, went in, found a security code, hacked the server, looked at the camera, hacked a guy's phone, got all the information I needed without ever even walking into the environment. It's like, that's fucking cool. When the fact is I could have walked in with a shotgun and tried to kill everybody as well. Yeah. That to me is the most impressive thing about the game.
Yeah, no, I haven't. I guess maybe I haven't quite done that enough. I mean, I always scope out the environment first, but I haven't really done it to trigger the traps as such.
Oh, have you not? You see, that's basically how I'm playing the game, and very, very rarely going in guns blazing unless I have to. It's probably only about 10% guns blazing for me.
Right. Well, I am stealthing it quite a bit. But again, it really is trying my patience that you can execute the perfect manoeuvre round someone's back, and you can press B and you can jump on the wall next to you.
That's happened to me a couple of times, but not too much, to be fair.
Yeah, but after that terrible opening, it's just been sort of escalating more and more. And those last few missions I've done, I'm like, wow, this is actually really fucking good. It's still just a sandbox video game.
It is.
People who are expecting anything more than that are probably going to be disappointed, but. Yeah, it's gotten really quite good over the last few hours. So I'm looking forward to playing it some more. And I do, the story, I'm with it.
Yeah, I am as well. Yeah, totally. There are things about it that you could say are hackneyed and cliched, but they're not too bad. And I think it's well drawn characters, well written. the odd line here and there, but I'm always more forgiving of a story that's being told over 40 hours than I am over one that's being told over 2. With the odd line here and there, it's like it must be very hard to do that. Yeah. So I'm with it. I've been reading forums, and everybody on there seems to be with it for the most part. Spoken to some other chaps that I know today, and they're loving it. So if you might well love it if you go in knowing what it is, which is it's a sandbox game with some cool ideas in terms of the hacking, and it does make you feel very, very powerful, I think, with the hacking stuff. Yeah,
it is. I mean, it is another superhero game where you're... and there are... I mean, I have had some wicked moments when you're triggering those bollards to shoot up out the street.
Yeah.
And deliberately taking people that were following me on a sort of goose chase so that I could sort of whack them on the way back round. I mean, I've had some really cool moments, so I'm interested to see if it can sustain that. And randomly, some of the dialogue... I mean, Ubisoft are like a multi... their teams are like comprised of people from all different countries, but like it's so funny hearing some of the sort of very, very American sounding dialogue, and then sort of really idiosyncratic, that potentially French sort of interpretation of dialogue that sounds like it's slightly wrong. And then I remember someone shouted everything during a ruck. Somebody shouted, "Everything's gone tits up," and I was like, "What? That doesn't." Yeah, I was just like, "What?" It's kind of a weird hodgepodge of bits and pieces like that, but. Although I have to say, if you have the option, by all accounts, although I read the Digital Foundry breakdown of the differences between the versions, and they seem to say that they're all more or less the same, and I can't believe that, because the Xbox One version, in addition to the problems it's given me, the pop-in is really pretty shit. I mean, and again, I played a multiplayer game earlier, but I suppose that's universally the same, that it was like it dropped to single frames, people kept bouncing out, in and out and out, the multiplayer with all of the little logos, everything about it is aping Grand Theft Auto 5, perhaps inevitably, but it's fun. The game I played where you had to hold on to this box and no one could come near you, otherwise they hacked it. It was fun. So I'm looking forward to playing it some more over the weekend. If Mario Kart doesn't take all my time, which it will.
Yeah. Sorry for not having that in this week, but that is what it is. That'll be next week. But I'm really into watches for sure. I'm going back to it. I'm into the story. I'm into the world. It's given me a few moments as well, which is my favourite thing about open world games. Open world city games, I should say, is when you suddenly feel like you're part of something, and that's normally involving a car, a song, and either before or after a mission, something's happened on the story beat. GTA 5 it happens all the time. I talked about that one where after Michael's family left him and he'd got in his car and those songs were playing and I drove all the way up to the north of the city. But this has had a couple with but in a much kind of more downbeat way. There's that song by Kid Cudi in the game. It's like him basically rapping in a real like off key. It's called Day and Night. Have you heard it in the game? It's like Day and Night. I mean, I've never really liked the song, but it's kind of a really downbeat song, and it was dark and it was raining and something nasty just happened in the story, and I was just cruising very slowly in the car to this song, and it felt right. It felt like I was there for a moment, and when those games do that, that's when I'm in. That's why I've always loved the potential of this genre, and I think I really like it. Fuck it, I do.
Yeah, to be honest, it has won me over. I mean, I hope that it can sustain the last few missions. But yeah, you're very right. It's much more downbeat than every other sandbox. That's why it seems so weird that they've sort of shoehorned in those psychedelics bouncing.
It is weird. I didn't really think about it myself. I was just like, they're there because that's what happens in games. But you're right, tonally. I think maybe someone should have stepped in and just sacked them off because.
And there's the Saints Row style running to collect money mini games as well.
I haven't actually played that one, but yeah,
it's that sort of shrieks of desperation. It's like I mean, to be honest, when Grand Theft Auto did it, I thought that's weird. They must be looking at Saints Row and thinking, "Hey, respect." But it fits because Grand Theft Auto has always had a really, really sort of abrasive, cheeky attitude.
Yeah,
this is just trying to be cinematic and reasonably dark and sort of. It doesn't fit, but. They're fun, I suppose, which is, I
played the one where you shoot the aliens that come out of the rifts, which are fun, and the one where you kind of hide from the robots. They're both fun.
Oh my... fuck. Robots and aliens? Fuck. I'm just talking about flowers. I thought that was bad. Man, they really have gone after
but
that.
I saw them as they're just like the video games that you play. But I did something very nasty happened in the story, and I immediately had a game of like fucking shooting aliens in the world, and I just thought, this is absolutely ridiculous. Imagine.
It doesn't feel right. Yeah,
No, it's like having a family tragedy. Not that this was a family tragedy in the story. I don't want to spoil anything, but imagine that someone phoning you with some sort of family tragedy, and you immediately whip out the Vita and just start session a bit of Sonic Racing or something. I don't know. Who knows? Yeah, you're right, I think, in that respect. But you can actually ignore them if you want to. I think I will from now on.
Yeah, I probably will as well. Yeah, if you want to get involved in the story, and I am involved in the story, then yeah, ignore that stuff. But it's all in your phone, so you can ignore it. Done.
Yeah, for sure. One massive oversight on PS4 that you bring up the smartphone and you can move around with the right stick. You can't move around with the touchpad.
Oh, that is daft.
Yeah, pure daftness. But never mind. It's not the end of the world, is it?
No, it is not the end of the world, but I kind of wish I had it on PlayStation 4.
Well, yeah, there is pop-in, but they're kind of fading at the distance on the motorways. I think the game is at its worst on the motorways in a car, in terms of how it looks.
Yeah. No, I mean that's
just say freeways. We're not in England anymore.
Freeways, yeah. Although it is, I mean, that's the problem with comparing a game that's at the beginning of a generation versus one that came out at the tail end of it.
Yeah,
basically,
and it's cross-generation as well.
That's true, and began life, I imagine, as a previous gen game. It's probably a native like PS3 or 360 game, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's 5 years old, so it must be. I mean, it's been around for 5 years.
Anyway, we've talked for 3 years. I like it so far.
Yeah, for sure.
Amazing.
Let us know what you think if you're playing on Twitter.
Genuine. Okay, well, that is us done. Thank you very much for listening, as usual. Facebook, Twitter.
At John Denson, at Chet Rovers.
At Chet Rovers.
YouTube, Chet and John.
YouTube, check out the YouTube channel. I'm going to put a new Batters video up at the weekend, and we've got a couple of video reviews going up over the weekend. So that's that. But yeah, thank you very much for listening. See you next week.
We'll talk 2003.